What's up, Big 12 Nation? There I am. Thank you so much for making us a part of your Tuesday night. It's Tuesday night in America. That can mean only one thing. It is time for another edition, perhaps the greatest ever edition, of your favorite Big 12-centric YouTube show / podcast. That's right, it's the one, it's the only. It is the biggest 12 with me, your host, Clint Foster. This may be the biggest one ever. This is basically the Destroy All Monsters of college football podcast crossover episodes. We're going to rapid fire through all 9 teams, 8 bowl games, all 8 bowl games. We're going to have a guest representing each one, and riding through it all with me, of course, is going to be none other than my man, Brownie. We'll see if Brittany joins us as well. Brownie, you are here. Before I let you say hello, I got to tell the people what I need them to do. Please subscribe to the show at Big 12 Voice of College Football. There it is down there. It's going to be a fun show tonight. We do this every Tuesday. Next 2 Tuesdays notwithstanding, because those are holidays. You know, we're trying to get this stuff in now before all of the festivities begin. Happy holidays to you. But subscribe to the show. We do this every week. And subscribe to my personal YouTube channel at Clint Foster Comedy. And follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55. If you are watching on Twitter right now, thanks. Hey, good evening. What's up? Go to YouTube, you troglodyte, and subscribe to the show. Also, you can find us on your favorite audio platform of choice, the Biggest 12 Live. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon. You name it. We're there. We're ubiquitous. We're everywhere. You can't escape us. You might as well just go ahead and give in. Brownie, how are you doing, friendo?
Oh, fantastic. Definitely feeling the pre-holiday extravaganzas at work. You know, everything's going absolutely crazy. Everybody wants stuff at the very last second. So I cannot wait to get into bowl game football and college basketball. Most importantly, Big 12 college basketball, because we all know that is the best conference when you want to watch it.
Yes. Well, and much to the chagrin of ESPN. Now, before we get into our guests, because we're going to be running through these every 10 minutes. So your favorite team, you out there in the Twitterverse and the YouTubeverse, your favorite team is going to get covered by one of your favorite podcasters, most likely. But before we get into that, we need to, because we are going to, of course, devote 10 minutes to talking exclusively about the Cyclones. Before we get into any of this, we need to talk about that the best bowl game in America just got better. And Brownie, what am I referring to, my friend?
If people haven't already saw, Pop-Tarts Bowl unveiled a couple of days ago that they made the trophy top that used to just be a plain football a working toaster. That's right. You can now make Pop-Tarts in the Pop-Tart Bowl toaster.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is probably honestly the coolest thing ever, and the greatest consolation prize of getting our you-know-what kicked in by Arizona State.
Yes, this is undoubtedly what Walt Disney had in mind when he said there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day, right? He was talking about the Pop-Tart Bowl trophy.
They were talking about the Pop-Tart Bowl trophy.
Yes,
100%.
That dispenses. I don't know why the video isn't playing anymore, because it was a second ago. I'll refresh the page. But yeah, this thing, and it was in a Pop-Tart foil, so even better. It pops Pop-Tarts out of the top. You can literally toast Pop-Tarts. God bless America, right? This is what
ever.
Dreams are made of, to quote Hillary Duff. Okay, I'm so excited for you.
The best Pop-Tarts in the world ready to put in the Pop-Tart toaster when we finally win it.
Oh, you think they're going to let you down there?
Blueberry.
Yes,
I will happily go to Ames and try to sneak in and use the Pop-Tart trophy at least once.
Shout out Brittany Rose. She might be joining us tonight, or she might just be salty about a lack of brown sugar Pop-Tart stands out there. We'll see. So other business that we got to get into, make sure, if you're not already, that you're tuning into the College Football Show with Mark Rogers. He does it every single day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. He also has a call-in show late night Saturday after the games. You can decompress. You can talk about what you've seen, have a little therapy sesh with the man, Mark Rogers. He also does a Sunday show. This man is constantly working, constantly talking college football for you. All right, it's on the Voice of College Football. Go and check him out. And we've got team channels now. Okay, literally, you name your team, we got a channel covering your team. So just type in YouTube, TCU, VOCFB, Garandag MTU. You're going to find a channel, and you're going to want to be a part of it. You're going to want to subscribe to it. So we are going to be looking a lot at college football insiders. And before we get our first guest in here, I want to make sure that I am giving Parker Fleming his flowers. Surely you are aware of this fellow. Friend of the show, although he hasn't been on the show. We need to rectify that. We need to have Parker on here one of these days. But I want to direct you to his Twitter. You should be following him if you're not already. This guy does incredible work with advanced stats for college football. There he is right there, looking like Yukon Cornelius. And yeah, so we will be looking at some advanced stats previews for each of these bowl games as we break them down in no particular order once these guests start rolling in. And Brownie, you've been rolling with us all season. You're going to be with us all episode, hopefully razzing some of these like Kansas State folks and whatnot as they come on. Why don't we go ahead and just like dip our toe into the Pop-Tart Bowl and just talk a little bit about this matchup and your feelings. Have they changed since last week when we briefly talked about it? Are you confident going into this Miami matchup? What are you thinking, friend?
I personally absolutely hope to sweet baby Jesus and all other holiday spirits that the Iowa State defense has learned how to tackle. It's one of those things that obviously you can't really coach. Once you're in the season, you focus more on X's and O's and schemes and stuff like that than really focusing on the tackling aspect of things. But Cam Ward honestly does kind of scare me. He's had a really good season with them. I think he's thrown for over 4,000 yards, and he has a really good touchdown to interception ratio. Our passing defense obviously got exposed pretty dang well against Arizona State, but I think that was just more because John Heacock was thinking mostly like all other Iowa State fans and was planning on trying to stop Cam Scattaboo, which still didn't work when we schemed for it. So I hope that was a very humbling game for us, and I do hope that we learned a lot from that experience. And I'm hoping, just like everybody else, that Iowa State comes with a win. 62-37 is harsh. I mean, I know that it's basically another home game for Miami Hurricanes being down in the wonderful world of the sunshine, but I'm gonna say
have a home field advantage. I don't know anymore. It's not the 2000s anymore. It's not the 80s anymore. I mean,
that's true, but I mean, I feel like there's going to be more Hurricane fans than Iowa State fans, especially after the showing for the bowl game. Let's be real here. We probably are all kind of still PO'd about it and have not bought as many tickets as we should have. But yeah, 30. Basically, what? They're thinking 32-28 is going to be the final score, give or take. I'm hoping, just for the sakes of entertainment purposes, that it's like a complete barn burner blasting shootout. Like we're talking like a 77-74 game here. Like I want this to be an absolute ridiculous score where defense doesn't exist.
Because that's the best hope for Iowa State. Is that what you're saying?
I think it's the worst hope for Iowa State, but it would be the most entertaining. And I don't know. I think it's just going to be hard to stop Miami's offense. Cam Ward, like if you would have told me that this Cam Ward was going to be the Cam Ward that showed up for this season, I honestly would have laughed and probably made some jokes. And then I would be tweeting like Cyclone Larry saying that he'd rather extend Steve Prohm than hire TJ Otzelberger.
Well, we will come back to the greatest of all bowl games here in short order. But first, we got to talk to our first guest of the evening. I'm a man who wears many hats in my life. I'll be wearing many hats on this show. We got Tim Fitzgerald, ladies and gentlemen, to talk the Rate Bowl. It's not guaranteed anymore. So, Tim, I mean, what are your thoughts on that the bowl isn't even guaranteed right anymore?
There's no guarantees. There's just no guarantees in life, let alone the bowl world. This is the 5th time Kansas State has played in this bowl. It's the 5th different name, for God's sakes. That rich tradition of what was the Copper Cactus Buffalo Wild Wings.
Cheese it.
Insight.com.
Cheese it.
And Ray Bowl.
Yeah, so we've got an interesting matchup here. I mean, I'm feeling fairly good about the Wildcats in this game.
Yeah.
Tim, what are your thoughts about the Cats going in?
Well, it's a bowl game. You don't know what you're going to get. I haven't heard much about Rutgers opt-outs. I know DJ Giddens and Jacob Parrish, starting running back and starting cornerback, have opted out going to the draft a year early. But other than that, I think K-State's in pretty good shape. They had a couple guys of substance go to the portal, but nothing too surprising. So I think they're going to be pretty much a full roster going into that game, with a few exceptions being the running back and corner.
Yeah, by the way, Tim, we just jumped into this thing. How you doing, friend?
Good,
Thanks for joining the show.
I'm good.
Good. Well, if we look at Rutgers' schedule, which I definitely do want to make sure that we do, because, the question, of course, is always like, have these guys played literally anybody?
Yeah.
I mean, the Big Ten has not impressed me this year. It doesn't impress me most years. They played Illinois, right, and lost. So there's that. Wins against Minnesota, Maryland, Michigan State, a blowout loss to USC, lost to UCLA, lost to Wisconsin, lost to Nebraska, win against Washington, win against Virginia Tech. I don't know. I mean, I don't think Rutgers has played anybody close to Kansas State's caliber. Am I wrong in saying that?
I don't think so. They avoided Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, and still just won 7 games. So I don't think this is a overly imposing opponent for Kansas State, to be real honest, but it's a Big Ten team. So they're going to be physical and they're going to want to run the ball. It'll probably be a quick game, which I'm all for. And if K-State can find success running the ball with backup running backs and Avery Johnson at quarterback, they should be in pretty good shape.
So backup running backs, that was going to be my next question. If Giddens is sitting out, then who should Wildcat fans be expecting to see a lot of?
Well, you'll get Dylan Edwards a little bit back there, of course, but I think they'll go mostly with Joe Jackson, the third stringer. He's kind of been a little bit more of the guy that can do a lot of different stuff. They like to use Dylan and to catch the ball as well as run, but they'll be probably pretty balanced. They might even get down to a third running back there, as they really want to use this bowl to kind of experiment and find out some answers about some of these things. Some of the guys that they're going to have to play, and see who's ready to go and who took bowl prep seriously.
Clint's asking where we find these stats. So shout out again to Parker Fleming, College Football Insiders. Check out College Football Insiders for these advanced stat breakdowns. Very cool stuff if you're a stats nerd, if you're into analytics. Some stuff that, frankly, I don't even understand. But do you feel, Tim, like a 28-23 final score? Do you think that's within the realm of likelihood of possibility here?
Yeah, I think K-State might be able to score more points than that, but I think the 5-point range is pretty good. I would accept that. And of course, K-State loves playing those one possession games that make me write late and, not get my work done in advance. Could I just have some blowouts, just a little bit? But it should be another good game. And this K-State team has been solid, but hasn't always played with a great deal of inspiration, which has gotten them into trouble a little bit.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think the deal is there? Because this is a team that a lot of folks had tabbed as a dark horse for Arlington, and much to Brownie's delight, that all kind of fell apart. What was the missing ingredient here with this Kansas State team?
Honestly, I don't know, and I've broken it down into a very football intellectual way to explain what I think has happened to this team. And they don't have enough sons of bitches in the locker room. And they're a bunch of nice guys. And I think as the season went on, they had some little friction in that locker room. And there wasn't anyone to step up and say, hey, shut up. Let's go play football. Let's go win a game. They lost 3 of their last 4. and honestly looked pretty bad against Houston and not great against Arizona State. We might now know that Arizona State's a pretty damn good football team. And then Iowa State just took the fight to them. And that's just not something K-State fans are used to seeing, is a K-State team that kind of loses the toe-to-toe slugfest.
Mm-hmm. Brownie, what are your thoughts on the Wildcats this year? This is your opportunity to take some swings.
Well, first off, Avery Johnson, not a quarterback. He is a glorified running back. Just saying. So Avery Johnson will be your QB1, but he is also RB1. I personally think that K-State did slightly underperform. I do believe that they're far better than an 8-4 team. I think a couple of things in each one of their 4 losses go in their way. Just once, you could be looking at an 11-1 or a 10-2 Kansas State team. I think that DJ Giddens was one of the best backs in the Big 12, and it's kind of weird always giving them kudos because I don't want them to succeed in Big 12 play, but we are now past conference play to where it is support Big 12 through and through. So I do actually think that looking at this matchup, Kansas State is by far a better 8-4 team, and I think Rutgers got the benefit of the Big 10 getting rid of the divisions to be able to get that 7-5. They really started playing those teams that were bottom feeders on both ends of the spectrum. You know, they played the Minnesotas, they played the Marylands, they played the Michigan States, they played Nebraska. Like, if you go back a couple of years, all of those teams are at the bottom of their divisions, right? So what they really effectively did was be the best bottom feeder in the Big Ten. So I guess congratulations on becoming bowl eligible, but you're going to be walking into the Cheez-It Bowl to get absolutely annihilated by a Big 12 team that, let's face it, probably has better second and third stringers and a better bench than Rutgers does as starters. I mean, when you look at it, they don't have a running back that's over 1,500 yards. They don't have a quarterback over 2,500 yards. And their top wide receiver only has 700 yards with 4 touchdowns. Like, that's child's play. Like, Kansas State did not pass the ball as much as I thought that they were going to this season because they really didn't have to. And they have 2 receivers that have better stats on fewer receptions than Rutgers leaders. So it's like you're statistically looking at it, and the probability on their chart was like 63% win percentage. I mean, I'm talking like 90-95%. I think that our buddy up here, Tim, is going to be able to get his article in early because it's going to be a blowout by halftime.
Yes. Tim, last question for you before you run. Where would you rank Avery Johnson among Big 12 quarterbacks going into next season?
Oh, that's a great one, Clint. I don't know because I don't understand Avery right now. The thing about Avery is he can throw the ball. He just didn't do it well at times this season. And I think he got a little confused between trying to protect himself in terms of not running the ball as often as they probably would like him to, because he's kind of fragile, in terms of body mass. But at the first half of the season, I swear they were trying to turn him into a pocket passer, which, as was noted on this show, that's not his thing. He's got to run the ball to kind of feel his way through the offensive system. So I think he'll be towards the top in potential at least. But let's be honest, the Big 12 had outstanding quarterbacks. It had outstanding players this season. For all the crap we hear about the Big 12 wasn't very good, you go and look at the Heisman votes, and there's no SEC players in there. And it's a bunch of Big 12 guys in there. And you know what? I think that says a lot about the conference. And I expect Avery to put up a pretty good season next year. I really do. I think he'll be a lot more confident and set as the starting quarterback. You know, the amazing thing is if you boil it out and look at his stats, they weren't that bad, but his turnovers were profound. the first play of the game, it really wasn't his turnover, but it was a turnover. And Dylan Edwards not being in the right spot for a pitch. The first offensive play is a turnover. And he had big plays that were turnovers at BYU. And Houston was an interception late that should have never been called, but it was that turned that game. So turnovers were a huge impact for Avery, and he's got to stop that.
All right. Thank you very much, Tim. Anything else you want the people to know before I let you go?
No, I'm just a big fan of Clint, and I'm looking for his next year for his holiday nude calendar. It's going to be fantastic.
That is one of many things in the works right now, much to the chagrin of the high schoolers that I teach. Okay, so thank you very much, Tim. All right, moving on now to our next bowl game. It is none other than the Alamo Bowl. So bringing in two fan favorites, we've got Joe Wheat for the BYU Cougars and B-Mac, the wired, fired, inspired man himself for the Colorado Buffaloes. We do have to take a moment and acknowledge the newest Heisman winner. Maybe not Twitter's Heisman, but B-Mac, what do you have to say about Travis Hunter?
Well, all I have to say is shout out to Ashton Genty. He's a great player, but there's only one of the best players in college football, and it's Travis Hunter. And he's just a great player defensively and offensively. And I know people are mad that he won because they think he won because of stats or snaps, but that's not the real reason he won. He won because he's truly the greatest player in the nation.
Spoken like a true buff. So let's talk about this bowl game now. And BMAC, we should expect to see Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter in this game, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, all right. So shout out once again to College Football Insiders, where we're getting all of these advanced stats previews from. Gentlemen, let's talk about this bowl game. Well, I guess, first of all, how you doing? How are we doing tonight? We doing great?
We're doing great.
Yeah. After hearing about nude calendars, it sounds like we came at the right time.
Where can I get mine?
What a perfect time to bring on the BYU guy right after talking about that.
Well, and hey, special shout out to you, Joe Wheat, being willing to come on here at fairly short notice. I am eternally in your debt. You are a fantastic human being for jumping on and doing this. What are y'all's thoughts on this bowl game, our Big 12 versus Big 12 bowl game?
You go first.
Yeah, so I personally am thrilled by it. There's some within the BYU fan base that would have, and I'm sure in the Big 12 at large would have preferred one of these two programs be playing like a Miami or someone like a Clemson, someone from the ACC or SEC. I think in terms of BYU and what this means for our program, I think this is probably the best possible matchup we could have gotten. Don't get me wrong. I love the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I'm going to be watching that and enthralled by it. But the reason people watch the Pop-Tarts Bowl is to watch a mascot get eaten. The reason people are going to tune in.
I'm watching it.
the reason people are going to tune into the Alamo Bowl is because it's a really, really good football game between two great programs. You got a 10-win team in BYU. You got the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. And probably the first quarterback to be taken in the NFL draft this next year. So I'm excited that the draw for this game is going to be the game. If BYU does come out victorious, I think it's going to be a huge narrative builder going into the offseason because, again, if you beat Colorado with their guys, everyone thinks Colorado is good. No one seems to still no one seems to think BYU is good. And so I think this will go a long way into propelling BYU into 2025 if they can find a way to win this game.
First of all, BYU was a very good college football team.
Thank you.
They just kind of fell off at the end there. But let's be honest, I do think that this should have been the Big 12 championship game in Dallas last Saturday. But because of the dumb tiebreaker, we're having
because of Kansas, let's be honest.
Kansas ruins everything. Welcome to the Big 12, where the refs in Kansas ruin everything.
Yeah, regardless.
Are those different? I was gonna say, are those different?
I don't think so.
During basketball season, no.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, but no, I am excited for this bowl game. I'm a little concerned that a few more players like Nakai Hill-Green will enter the transfer portal and we'll lose them, but it's by December 28th. That, by the way, was a big shocker for us because he's one of our better players on defense and on the defensive line. So it's going to be really interesting to see who can fill that gap that Nakai Hill-Green's going to leave in this game. But yeah, I do expect Travis Hunter to score 18 touchdowns on this BYU defense.
So you're not buying this score prediction on the advanced stats? 27-26. You're not buying what they're selling?
I'll tell you that in 2.5 weeks.
Okay. Fair enough, B-Mac. Fair enough. Well, I mean, I know something that I think this is going to be an excellent game, and I am excited for it, even though it is, like I say, it's a little bit of a bummer we can't test ourselves against other conferences in more games. But the thing that concerns me about this game, if I'm looking from a BYU perspective, is BYU has a good defense, but do they have the hosses to keep up with the Travis Hunter over the top, with some of their skill players? I mean, Joe, do you have any qualms about facing Colorado's offense, or what are you feeling about this game?
Yeah, so, I mean, BYU is top 5 in pass efficiency defense, have been all year. I'm not, in terms of like talent, like matching up with Travis Hunter, there's no one that can match up with Travis Hunter in the country. Like it's just, there's not a lot of guys who can do it. So one-on-one, those matchups do create problems. That being said, BYU's biggest problem on defense all year has been the run game, and Colorado does not have much of a run game to speak of. But that's by choice. Like Shedeur is kind of dropping back and throwing I don't know how many times per game, but they kind of run, from my eyes, is kind of their own version of the air raid, and their run game is essentially the quick screen game, the tunnel screens, the throws to the flat, where you're just going to get the ball to Travis Hunter or Horn and just let them make a play. And that's where I think BYU is going to struggle the most, is that quick throw game. BYU hasn't proven to me that they can tackle guys in space like that. So if we're asking about, can BYU hang with Travis Hunter over the top, I think BYU is going to be able to at least put up a fight in the downfield passing game. Where I'm more worried about is the quick game, and can BYU's corners get off blocks and make tackles on really elusive Colorado receivers?
Yeah, good call. So I know B-Mac's keeping his cards close to the chest, right? He's not going to give us a score prediction, but Joe, what are you kind of feeling score-wise in this game?
Yeah, looking at that 27-26 number, that feels low to me for some reason. I think first to 30 is probably going to win this game. I do think BYU's offense is a lot better than most give them credit for. I think BYU can put up some points on this on Colorado's defense. The fact that one of the biggest concern I have for BYU's offense is that both of our starting tackles are going to be out, or at least our 2 right tackles are going to be out. And Colorado gets after the quarterback. But if Colorado's defensive linemen, if there's guys entering the transfer portal, that's good news for us. I'm going to say 31-28. I'm going to go BYU because I'm a BYU guy. But also just because, I look at that Kansas game that Colorado played, and I look at the Kansas game that BYU played, I thought BYU's defense made Kansas extremely one-dimensional in that game and held them to 17 points. Colorado's defense was not able to do that. And so for that reason, I think BYU's offense can probably score a little bit on Colorado's defense.
Cool. One more question for BMAC before I let y'all go. What are the Buffs going to do as far as reloading for 2025? Losing Shedeur, losing Travis Hunter, losing, all of the significant pieces that immediately come to mind. Who plays quarterback for the Buffs next year? What's next year going to look like?
If you haven't heard, we have a guy named Julian Lewis, who's a 5-star quarterback from Louisiana coming in next year. He will definitely play quarterback next year. We actually got some speed coming in at wide receiver. We got Draylon Miller coming in or not coming in, coming back. And then we have another wide receiver who I'm blanking in his name he was a 4-star wide receiver who just committed to us on Thanksgiving night. And he said he has the talent to replace Jimmy Horn and LaJohntay Wester. So there's that for you. And today we just got the number 1 tight end transfer to commit to us today. And so there's your talent on offense that needs to be replaced, as long as a few more guys. And so we're basically just going to hit the transfer portal if we can't find it in the from high school teams. And then last night we just got the number 1 overall transfer from Alabama, who is a defensive lineman who will replace a couple of the guys going to the draft this upcoming draft class. So, and then, but the real thing we have to think about is will Robert Livingston stay in Colorado, because he's the real mastermind behind this defense, and his second half adjustments have been close second to none this year. Which I do think the first half for BYU will be a huge thing because of those adjustments that Robert Livingston brings to this team.
Fantastic. Anything else from you two gentlemen?
Nope. Go Cougs.
Hey, good luck to you. Good luck
to you.
Thanks so much. It's going to be a fun game. Going to be a fun game to watch. I think I'm feeling Colorado in a close one there. We got to keep moving at a brisk pace here. We've got none other than Flatland Sports and to talk about them Red Raiders, who, speaking of the transfer portal, man alive, Cody Campbell is throwing the cash. Okay, we're trying to get some.
Yeah, save some for us. Like
he's got some oil money burning a hole in his pocket, and I'm kind of shocked that Texas Tech even has a chance to practice for the bowl game, considering they're just signing every single kid that enters the portal at this point.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, we got a Southwest Conference rivalry revived in the Liberty Bowl. Unfortunately, Tech's not going to have anywhere for their fans to sit because that whole side of the stadium has been demolished, apparently.
It's the SEC Bias Bowl is what it is. They just won't even let Big 12 fans in.
Yeah.
Well, seats, it just means more.
Hey, you know what? Let my people sit. Okay, that's that. We were talking about BYU a second ago. Let my people sit. Okay, back to College Football Insiders. Let's take a look at what they've got on tap here for this Liberty Bowl. Flatland, what are your thoughts about this game, baby?
Well, first of all, from a Big 12 perspective, it's kind of a sneaky important Big 12 game because it is Big 12 versus SEC. Any chance you get to potentially get a win over the SEC and make Greg Sankey sweat a little bit is a good thing for the conference overall. For Texas Tech, it's really a chance to get the first 9-win season since 2009, which was Mike Leach's last year at Texas Tech.
No kidding! Wow, that's crazy.
It's been a decade and a half. But more like specifically, we can talk about how the fans feel about it, how good it will feel to get 9 wins. But Joey McGuire touched on this in a press conference a while back, just how getting 9 wins affects momentum going towards the next season. And the reference I have for that is the 2007 season for Texas Tech, when had a similar kind of an up and down year, finished 8-4, and then went to the Gator Bowl and just beat a very good Virginia team at that time, and showed Michael Crabtree got to be on showcase for the entire country to see. And the result was the next season, Texas Tech opens up the polls at number 12. And so, just one game can have a huge impact over just the momentum going from one season to the next. For this particular game, I think the biggest factor on both sides is just going to be personnel more than anything else. Texas Tech, the day after the West Virginia game, let Tim DeRuiter go, defensive coordinator. And then the following day, Zach Kitley took the head coaching job at Florida Atlantic. And so all of a sudden, within a span of 48 hours, you're just left completely coordinatorless. So on that note, Juice Johnson will call the plays for the offense. I'm really expecting the offense to not really change at all. I think he's going to keep everything the same because they've been very productive all year. The only thing that I would expect to see is that you'll probably be a lot more run heavy and a lot more reliant on Taj Brooks. For the other personnel question, which is that Baron Morton will not be starting this game. You're getting Will Hammond, who had a couple of appearances, most notably the second half of the TCU game. And he, in my opinion, played very well. Minus one play, one kind of true freshman hiccup. But I don't think Joey McGuire, I don't think Juice Johnson's going to want to overwhelm him. So I think they're going to really, really rely on Taj Brooks to carry the offense and really just open up opportunities for Will Hammond and to make plays with Josh Kelly. On the other side of the ball, CJ Ayu, the outside linebackers coach and former St. Louis Ram, will call the defensive plays. On that note, I think the defense might be a little bit different in terms, I think it's going to be a lot more simplified than what we had all year. It's going to be just a handful of coverages and just a real emphasis on just executing. The biggest issue that I think Tim DeRuyter had this last season particularly, but really in his entire 3-year span at Texas Tech, was just their blown coverages were just a constant issue on a game-by-game basis. And I'll reference that TCU game again. I think Tech gave up 21 points on just 3 separate plays because of a blown coverage. And so I expect to see the defense to just be a little bit more simple, more like a Mike Leach era defense.
So non-existent then.
I was going to say
not
non-existent and hoping to at least make one stop.
Now that's a Cliff Kingsbury defense. Mike Leach played a little bit of defense in his day. As far as
Will Hammond, I mean, he has looked good in limited action. I mean, if he shows out against Arkansas, do you think there's any reason to believe that the Hutto Hippo, Will Hammond, can push Baron Morton potentially in the spring for a little bit more playing time, especially with Baron Morton dealing with so many injuries so consistently?
I think the job is Baron Morton's to lose at this point in terms of next season. But I definitely think Will Hammond has the potential to give Texas Tech Twitter just a lot to gripe about all next season after every complete pass that Baron Morton throws. I think what we've seen of Will Hammond, he's a lot crisper than Baron Morton. He seems like he makes decisions a little bit faster, and he's got a hand cannon. He's not quite as mobile, or at least he's mobile, but in a way that he scrambles to pass as opposed to scrambling to run, which is what Morton does. But absolutely, he'll if everything goes the way I expect it to go in this Liberty Bowl game, I really think he'll be a topic of conversation all the way through next year.
Do you see the final score being as tight as the stats suggest there? 29.7 to 29.5?
Well, and I hadn't watched a lot of Arkansas this year, so I listened to a few podcasts and tried to do a little bit of research. It seems like their entire demeanor right now is just complete and total despair. I mean, I listened to Locked On Razorbacks, and it was about 5 straight episodes of why Arkansas is never going to win a national championship.
It's a great place to be.
I mean, they're not wrong.
Been there, done that, and I enjoy a little for Arkansas. Their whole deal, though, right now is they've just been completely decimated by the transfer portal, particularly on defense, and then particularly in the running back position. I mean, they've got, there's questions of whether they're going to have to pull a Marshall and just bow out.
I mean, at the end of the day, they lost to Oklahoma State. Okay, come on, they can't be that great. They lost.
No, I mean they middle of the road. They squeaked by at 6-6, and lost to. I mean, Oklahoma State has more wins against the SEC than they have against the Big 12 this year.
Mm-hmm. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah, and
is
it looks
really?
Like currently they have 30 players that have entered and found new teams already, or still entered in the transfer portal. That's a 3 followed by a 0, and a lot of them had significant playing time this year.
Yeah, and most of them on the defensive side of the ball is what I was seeing too. I mean, their defense is almost non-existent at this point.
Yeah, corner, edge, corner, safety, linebacker, corner, inside linebacker, outside linebacker, safety, linebacker, D-line. that's a lot of defense.
Yeah.
Speaking of the transfer portal, one last question for you, Flatland. I mean,
Yes, sir.
we mentioned the Raiders have been feasting in the portal, which is, great for y'all. But does the departure of Micah Hudson give you any pause? What are your thoughts on Micah Hudson going to A&M?
Well, bye. It's kind of my,
Nice
I think
tombstone
what
reference.
stings more than anything is just the giving the Longhorns an opportunity to point and laugh at you. But Micah Hudson this season really has been non-existent in terms of production. I think he had 8 total catches. One really good catch, which was the entire Texas A&M highlight reel that the Aggie official Twitter account posted. It stings just because of who he was, what he was, and just kind of, like I said, the ammunition that you give Texas, particularly to kind of point and laugh. But receiver has never been anything that Texas Tech has struggled with. Receiver in general, I think, is one of the easiest positions to get from the portal. And so you lose potential more than anything else. But in terms of on-field production, you really haven't lost anything. You haven't taken any steps back.
Yeah, fair. Well, one last thing, and then we got to move on. What's your score prediction? You said you're not expecting it to be close. How much do you think the Raiders win by?
I am going to say it's going to be at least 10 points. I'm going to say 27-17 for the good guys at Texas Tech.
I like that.
I don't think their defense is going to be able to stop anyone. I think Will Hammond might stumble a little bit just being as green as he is, but I just don't think Arkansas has anyone left.
Yeah, and we're all pulling for you. Hey, the good guys from the Southwest Conference got to stick together, okay, against these
absolutely
turncoats. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, we're going to move on now on to another gentleman who has swooped to our aid at the last possible second, as we are now going to talk about them West Virginia Mountaineers. Take me home, country roads. Rich Rod is back, and Coos is back on the channel to talk Mountaineers in the Frisco Bowl. Coos, how you doing tonight?
What's up, brother?
So I'm going to pull up these advanced stats. Again, shout out College Football Insiders. They think that West Virginia is going to do all right in the Frisco Bowl, but buddy, I'm worried. I am worried about this game. Should I be worried as far as the Mountaineers are concerned?
I think so. Only because, they're playing for an interim coach. Other coach was fired. You can probably assume that there's a large portion of the team that's going to leave after this game. Where are their heads going to be at? How many of these guys are excited to play in the game? How many of the guys are, worried too much about the portal, worried too much about where their next stop's going to be? You just don't know. Those are all big unknowns right now. The argument to that is they may want, the ones who want to stay may want to try out for the new coach who's going to be in attendance tonight, or the coach who may be coaching the team that they land at if they go to the portal. So there are some reasons for these guys to play hard tonight and try to put their best foot forward. But there, anytime you have a game like this with a lame duck staff and an interim coach, it's hard to have a whole lot of confidence in the team performing at the highest level.
It did completely slip my mind that this game is about to kick off in like an hour and a half. So that's crazy. We're getting it in just in time. Memphis is a good team too. This is not, not a slouch. Well, we're not trusting the climb anymore. Coos, was it the right call to move on from Neil Brown?
Yes, absolutely.
No elaboration needed.
It was just, mediocrity, man. He was the program was the epitome of mediocrity under his watch. One of the worst stretches of our program's history. We were just stuck in the mud and didn't seem to be getting out anytime soon. So I think they made the right move by getting rid of him.
And you're excited to have Rich Rod back, or do you think that this is, hey, we're trying to rekindle an old flame that's just, it's not going to work the same the second time around? What do you think about that?
We'll see what day he was officially announced, last Wednesday? Officially announced Thursday. The report came out from Pete Thamel Wednesday night. Today's Tuesday. I've had a smile on my face for 6 days, if that tells you anything.
And that has been the sentiment I've gotten from every Mountaineer I know. Joey Foster, a good friend of the show, has been fired up about Rich Rod coming back.
I can't wait for Pat White 2.0.
Yeah, I don't know who that's going to be, but bring him on, baby.
Rich Rod will find a Pat White 2.0. If it's anybody that I know that can find one, it's going to be him.
Yeah, don't be shocked if it's somebody like Bo Prabula from Penn State, something like that.
Okay. A little sprinkle there. So we're seeing this kind of shockingly a lot in the Big 12. Like, right? If you gave me a nickel for every time a Big 12 coach was being brought back for a second stint this season, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right? So between Rich Rod coming back and Scott Frost coming back to UCF, who do you think has the better return to their old stomping grounds?
Without having educated myself a lot on the UCF side of this thing, I've been so focused on the West Virginia stuff. I'm gonna go with my gut and say West Virginia here. Rich Rod, Scott Frost has been out of coaching for a couple of years now. His last run didn't go so well. Where I feel Rich Rod is actually on the rise again in his career. So I feel like it's just a different angle here, and also. And I haven't had a chance to talk to any UCF folks about this, but with Rich Rodriguez, West Virginia is also expected to see an influx of donor support, NIL money,
That'll
all
help.
of that. So I don't know if UCF's getting, maybe they are, I don't know. But to me, that kind of pushes us to the top of between those two, it kind of pushes West Virginia slightly ahead of them.
Yeah,
So
and I think that it's really honestly whoever's NIL starts backing their team more, I think that's going to be who comes out on top. I still think that when given like just the coaching ability, I think that Rich Rod does have an advantage there. Scott Frost's time in Nebraska did not go well, did not end well. We saw him play in a really crappy division in the Big Ten as well. And I mean, now he's coming to the Big 12. It's not the American anymore. Like you can't curb stop a bunch of G5 with players that should be playing in P5 that just they didn't have room for them. Like you have to have a P4 roster, and Scott Frost had that at Nebraska. So unless he's willing to compete against Florida, A&M, Florida State, and all of these other SEC teams to get players to come to the Big 12, I think that West Virginia kind of corners the market over in that neck of the woods when it comes to players outside of Penn State.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, Cincinnati, I don't know what they're doing in the portal right now, but I feel like West Virginia hasn't made a lot of movement yet in the portal. I'm assuming they're waiting for the new staff to get seated, or at least get through this bowl game and see what players stay and all that. I mean, there's so much that goes into this, but I do know that Cincinnati seems to be doing pretty good in the portal right now. They haven't done as hot on the recruiting side of it, I don't think, as far as the freshman recruiting. But yeah, West Virginia should have an advantage here. We would hope with NIL and the backing they're getting from their big donors, and the Pat McAfee presence doesn't hurt either.
Certainly. Yeah, certainly. Here's another question for you. TCU's in the market for a new athletic director, and boy, howdy do we need one. And Mountaineer Paul has been telling me that he's heard rumblings about Ren Baker. TCU's looking at Ren Baker. Should Mountaineer fans be concerned about y'all's hotshot AD potentially leaving Morgantown? Is that something you're worried about?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I don't know how. I mean, I have seen some of the same reports Paul's mentioned, but so it's definitely a concern because he is, but he's going to be on everybody's list. Every time a new AD job pops up, his name comes up. It seems like the one that worries me about TCU though is it gets him closer to home because he is from Oklahoma, and he would be able to stay in a Power 4 school. He'd get him closer to home. So that TCU, maybe they can pay more money. I don't know. So yeah, I'm definitely concerned. We're going to be changing. West Virginia's going to be changing presidents here soon. I don't know how he feels about that. So there's a lot of things that, make me concerned about him leaving, but hopefully West Virginia does what it takes to keep him there if he is truly a candidate for the job and it comes down to him, leaving or not.
All right. So we mentioned we're all worried about the Frisco Bowl. So there's that. There's a lot to feel good about in Morgantown. Are y'all going to be celebrating a win later tonight? Make your call now.
My gut says no, only because I don't think Memphis is a good matchup for West Virginia. They love to throw the football. West Virginia's pass defense has been horrific this year. They're good at stopping the run. West Virginia likes to run the football. So I don't think it's a great matchup. Now, West Virginia should be more talented because of the P5 to G5 comparisons here. But again, back to what I said when I first popped on here is are they going to be in the right mindset? You know what I mean? Where is their head going to be in the game, or is it going to be on, the next move in my career? Is it going to be on the portal? All that stuff. So because of that, I'm picking Memphis to win the game 31-28.
Okay. That's literally just about the inverse of what the advanced stats are saying. They have West Virginia winning 32-28. So, but yeah, that is my concern as well. Any last thoughts for the folks out there in internet world, Coos, before we let you get ready for this game?
Not really. Just be ready for hard edge football to return to West Virginia under Rich Rodriguez. Physicality, toughness, playing with an edge, very exciting offensive football. Hopefully we'll come back to West Virginia, which we haven't seen in quite some time. And hopefully West Virginia will once again be a respectable, reputable brand that's on the national stage again here very soon.
We want that for you. As long as it's not against our team, we want that for you.
I hear you. And don't and stay away from our athletic director.
No promises there. Okay. We have needs. Okay. We got needs we need to say. Thank you so much, Coos. Thank you. So yeah. I don't know. Brownie, anything that you wanted to throw out there about the Frisco Bowl before we move on to our next?
I think it's kind of like a trap game almost.
Big time.
If we're just talking about, if you look at this list of games for Big 12 games, I think that this one is the biggest trap game, right? I mean, West Virginia, nothing to lose, interim head coach. They're probably going to throw balls to the walls. They're hopefully playing players that want to stay for next year, that are seeing this as kind of like that interview to justify them being the starters next year. Memphis, I mean, I know that we've talked about it in previous episodes, but I still think that Memphis is probably the best suited G5 team to be a P4 team itself. I think that there's a lot of similarities between them and SMU. But I just feel like West Virginia's nothing to lose mentality is going to catch Memphis by surprise. So it's really if they dug down and told themselves that this game does matter and that they don't want to be embarrassed. And I think that would be the edge that West Virginia needs to come out on top. Do I see it happening? I don't think so. I think Memphis does beat them by 3, but I won't be surprised if West Virginia wins. I just won't. It's not going to be like, oh man, interim head coach in a really crappy situation going on and they won. Like, who would have thought?
Yeah.
And I'd just be like, typical freaking West Virginia.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the team that everyone actually cares about. That's right. It's my Frogs. And we got a Frog Talk reunion, ladies and gentlemen. Billy Wessels himself.
Hello.
Sideways. Billy, how you doing, friend?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I've come down off of the unadulterated rage of participating in this bowl game. But I'm very glad that it's you who's talking about it. What with your ties to the boot. What are your thoughts? Well, let's start surface level. What are your thoughts about TCU being in the New Mexico Bowl in general before we get into the matchup?
After the first couple weeks of the year, I guess I'll take a bowl game, right? It's better than not being in one, I suppose.
Shoot, after the last 6 years.
I'm trying to do this on an iPad. I keep looking like I'm looking off in the distance so majestically. So I don't know where the camera is in this thing. Unless I'm sideways. Anyway, I guess if you told me back in week 4 after they blew UCF and that game that they were going to make a bowl game, I guess I'll take it. But this is obviously, I don't know, the 43rd bowl game that I would have chosen out of the list, but but here we are. So
yeah, we're 8-4, man. What are we doing? Okay, but we're playing Louisiana. We're playing the Raging Cajuns. Some of your kinfolk, I suppose.
Yeah, you got the Ragingest Cajun you know to do this. So.
Yeah, that's true. Or certainly the Ragingest Cajun I know who has any kind of TCU tie.
There you go. That's fair.
Yeah. So this is one the Frogs should win as long as they show up. Louisiana's down to its third string quarterback. Frogs we did get news that Cam Cook is transferring, so he's entering the transfer portal. He won't be in the game. We don't know if Savion Williams is going to play. So it may be the Jeremy Payne and Josh Hoover show. I don't know. Billy, what are you thinking about the matchup?
Yeah, and I was doing a little research on Lafayette before this, and it's just They're down. Their top 3 tight ends are all gone. Their second and third best pass catchers in the portal. They don't have a lot of weapons. This is the second largest spread of any bowl game. I think this behind the Navy and Louisiana Tech bowl game, ironically, as far as Army and Louisiana Tech bowl games being the second largest spread. TCU should roll. I mean, Hoover needs 205 yards to break the single season passing record. I think he'll blows past that. You see a lot of Haas Haney in the second half. TCU shouldn't have a problem here. If they do, that's not good. That's not a good sign at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I am hoping to see some more Haas Haney. I would like to see him pass the ball. I'd like to see him run the ball. You know, he's not going to lose any eligibility playing in this game. You might as well give him some run. You might as well give him the experience, especially if we do get any kind of a lead in this game. But yeah, it's my only concern is, well, my concern is twofold. Are the guys excited to play? And assuming they are excited to play, can our running game have any kind of pulse without Savion Williams if he does not play? That's what has me concerned.
If I'm Savion, I wouldn't play. Like,
yeah, I wouldn't either.
I'd sit this one out. You carry the team for the last 8 weeks of the season. You can take this one off, man. Go get paid. You got Jack Besh obviously hurt. I don't think he was going to play anyway, but he's going to go get paid too. This is going to be the Eric McAllister and JP Richardson show from Hoover. I just don't know if Louisiana Lafayette has the firepower to keep up with what TCU can do. I think TCU's 4th and 5th best weapons would still be the best players to ever play at Lafayette. So,
yeah. I mean, we do have a lot of talent on this team right now. That is true. Brownie, is there any reason that we have to be concerned?
No. not a chance.
I mean, this number here is only got a favor by like a 9-point win. This Vegas says 13, so I don't know. This is smarter than I am, but that's interesting.
I mean,
yeah. The advanced stats have it a little closer.
Wild.
I think it's just the fact that Louisiana got nobody right. They're out their top pass catchers, out of linemen, out their top corner. I think as well. It's just I think that just the weapons they have are not going to be good enough, and TCU just got speed, baby. Plus, with TCU, like their defense, it's a bunch of seniors, right, that are probably not going to be high, if at all, draft picks. So they're going to go out and play one last game. I don't see TCU having a problem with this at all. So,
yeah,
wasn't their only P4 game also? I was looking at their schedule.
Well, they
here,
beat
and
Wake
it was
Forest.
literally Wake Forest.
Yeah, they beat Wake Forest. They lost to Tulane.
But Wake Forest was 4-8.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
so a 41-38 against a 4-8 Wake Forest team, and I mean, yeah, they're 10-3, but at the same time,
they got mossed by Marshall. You know, they got destroyed by Marshall. They lost to South Alabama. They lost to Tulane. They did beat Monroe, so you know, there's that. I guess
down the street rival. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think with the number of, like, even again, if TCU's top players are not playing, there's no reason why they shouldn't win this game by 2 scores. And if they don't, again, like I said, big problems. A lot of Haas Haney in the second half. I think the fact that you saw what Steve Johnson did a little profile on him for the Star Telegram, or was interviewing him yesterday, that kind of sets the stage. We'll see a lot of him in the second half of this game. Hopefully, let Hoover get the record. He needs 205 yards. For the single season record, then let the kids take over.
So Billy, I feel like going into next season, I mean, you know, hopefully you get a win in this ball game. You've gotten a month of good practices. The expectation next season for TCU is you got to compete in a real way for the Big 12 title, right? Otherwise, you're asking questions about Sonny again, I think. So Frogs have picked up a couple interesting pieces in the portal. A former defensive lineman from Alito that I really, really love.
Say his name.
Yes.
Say his name.
Still need a good receiver. The Cyclones stole so well. I really wanted so well. So screw you, Brownie, for that one.
You're welcome.
But what does TCU need to compete at that high level next season?
Well, let me just talk about the defense is going to be replacing a lot of guys. You got Obiezor gone. I think Bud Clark is up in the air whether he's going to come back or not. Johnny Hodges he's gone now too. That's a lot of key pieces. Sure, the defensive line should be better, which it was better this year than I think a lot of people expected anyway. I think, but you got to replace a lot in the back, 7 of the defense there. So I don't know. Like, again, I'm just nervous about what they're going to be able to do enough to get back to Arlington with the schedule again,
It is a
looks like it's gonna be
tough
tougher.
schedule. It's a tough schedule.
It's going to be tougher. I mean, but we also thought coming into this year it'd be tougher, and then it ended up being
Yeah.
the easiest schedule of all time. So I think, but having to go to Kansas State, I think they go to Arizona State as well. Like it's going to be a lot tougher next year as far as getting to Arlington. This could easily be another 9-3 team that maybe makes a push for the Big 12 title game, but another 7-5 or 8-4 team season wouldn't surprise me either. So
yeah. Do you think that a year of, dare I say, synergy with the offensive line helps it next season? And also getting back, what's his name? The guard who was injured.
Bless, did he play?
No. Bless is out after this year.
That's what I thought.
Which, by the way, I hope we see a lot more of the young guys at tackle in this game. Ben Taylor Whitfield and I want to say Ryan something, but Cade Bennett maybe. Well, anyway, do you think that we need to overhaul the offensive line, or do you think a year of experience for these guys and a year of playing together is going to make them look better next season?
I think the offense won't be the problem. I mean, I think the offense is bringing back a lot of pieces. We didn't really have a running back this year anyway. Of course, we like Cam Cook, but we moved Savion Williams from being the top receiver on the team to the top running back. That's not going to be changing an awful lot. It's going to be Hoover going out there slinging it, probably breaking the record he's going to set here this year, probably breaking it again next year. He's going to have to if they're going to be competitive. I think can they stop anybody is going to be the thing. And we saw the defense not be good for most parts of the season. So I'm not worried about the offense, not worried about the offensive line. Sure, you lost your top two pass catchers in Besh and Savion, but they got what Mangrave the fourth, whatever his name is, from Houston. That's a nice.
Oh, Manjack, yes, the guy who doesn't wear gloves.
Yeah, so that's a nice little pickup there. Eric McAllister I think will be very good too. So I think the offense will be fine. I'm not worried about that. Just can the defense be good? So
yeah. Well, and I like the pieces we've gotten on D line. Hoping some of these young linebackers can step up. I think it'll be interesting year 2 of Andy Avalos' system with Andy Avalos' guys. Maybe they're playing a little bit faster. They know where they're supposed to be. Hopefully we see a TCU defense that is, semi-competent for the first time in 2 years. Any other thoughts on this game, Billy?
Nope.
Hopefully we're hoisting that clay pot
whatever
in a couple of weeks.
In the game, it starts at what, a 2:15 start time, right?
So everything about this bowl game is gross.
Yeah, it's not going to be good.
1:15 Central. Yeah, it's ugly.
Yeah, not an ideal time. It's buried amongst 10 other bowl games at the same time going on. No one's going to watch it. So if you lose, it won't be that embarrassing, I guess. But they'll win. Hopefully they cover the 13 and everyone just has a Merry Christmas. So
yes, yeah. Well, we hopefully will have already had a Merry Christmas by the
Happy New Year then. Whatever makes you feel
better. Yes, we'll either be saying Happy New Year or like good riddance to bad rubbish. Billy, thank you so much for jumping on. I got to put on a green hat now and hope that I don't burst into flame.
Oh God, I gotta get out of here before I see that.
All right, we are Baylor Bearless because go figure. I can't get a Baylor Bear to answer their DMs. But we got to talk about this Texas bowl game. Brownie, me and you are going to do it. And you know what? If we talk trash about Baylor, it's you got no one to blame but yourselves. You know who you are. Okay. You didn't answer your DMs. Okay. So Baylor is playing LSU. Oh, how I wish it was us. I like the Bears in this game, Brownie. While I'm pulling up these advanced stats, talk to me. How should we be feeling?
I mean, I think that Baylor is probably the hottest team in the Big 12 right now.
Arizona State, yes.
But I mean, you're talking about a team that literally started 2-4 and all of a sudden just went on a hot streak. Beat Texas Tech, beat Okie State, which I mean now doesn't look good. Beat TCU, West Virginia, Houston, Kansas. I mean, they definitely turned it on. I think that Robertson has definitely settled down once they made that switch from Finn. They found a running game with Washington and Pendergrass, kind of splitting it up, And this is definitely one of those that I am screaming from the top of the rafters, Big 12 Unite. Because anytime that any Big 12 team has a chance to beat the living bejeebus out of an SEC team,
that's what it comes down to. Yeah, I mean, I sports hate Baylor as much as anybody, but we're playing the SEC, and the narrative is important. And this is more I hate ESPN and the college football establishment more than I hate Baylor. Right? We got to root for the Bears in this one.
we have to.
Yeah, and they have a real chance. They really do have a real chance. I mean, I wish like crazy. I messaged so many Baylor people, Brownie, so many Baylor people. I wish one of them could have come on because I really want to get a sense of the pulse of the fan base. I mean, you want to talk about a dude saving his freaking job, Dave Aranda. I mean, you said it. Baylor is so hot right now. They've got an incredible freshman running back. Sawyer Robertson looks great. The defense is playing well. And you feel really dadgum good about this Texas Bowl game, right? LSU's coming onto your turf now, right? Coming onto this side of the state line. So yeah, and LSU on the other hand has not looked great down the stretch. They started out pretty hot. In fact, let me just double check that so that I've they beat Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, which is more than Alabama could do. Yeah, they did what Alabama couldn't. They beat Vanderbilt and Oklahoma.
Please.
Yeah, but they lost to A&M, Alabama, Florida, 3 in a row there, and they lost that USC game to start out the season, which that doesn't look all that great in hindsight. Their most impressive win is an overtime win against Ole Miss, and outside of that, okay, you beat South Carolina, woohoo! You beat Nicholls, South Alabama, UCLA, and Arkansas. Hooray, hurrah! The SEC is so freaking overrated this year, man.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, the advanced stats have LSU favored by 3, a little more than 3, almost 4. But yeah, I like Baylor.
That's the SEC bias right there.
Yeah, I like Baylor in a low-scoring game here. I mean,
I do as well. I think that, especially when we're talking about Aranda, that at least the Baylor fans that I have talked to throughout the entire season it was always just give Aranda time. He needs a little bit more time. I've been told multiple times that Baylor's athletic department felt like it wasn't fully his fault because he was never fully prepared and the NIL wasn't fully supportive in the direction that he wanted the team to go and were kind of acting off on their own. I think now that he has had time to sit there, implement the systems, get in the recruits, kind of win over the athletic department, and then have to fight to win over the NIL group, I think they're starting to actually see the dividends pay off. They did actually just get the Alabama wide receiver too, I think. Today,
I did see that
from the portal.
I did see that. Which, I mean, as a fan of a team that got the Alabama wide receiver a few years ago, I mean, okay.
Right. I mean, it's definitely one of those where me personally, unless it's Devontae Smith, I don't really. It's an Alabama wide receiver. Do they even know how to pass a football? Like Nick Saban's team, do they know how to pass a football? You look at all the Alabama quarterbacks in the NFL, and they definitely don't know how to pass a football.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that they're definitely heading and steering in the right direction. LSU, man, I hate watching SEC teams.
Yeah.
And if this wasn't on New Year's at 2:30, I probably wouldn't watch the game. Just because it just doesn't appeal to me outside of I just want the Big 12 to beat the living crap out of the SEC.
Yeah.
I want ESECPN to take a big blow because it even is on ESPN. Like, how funny would it be having the SEC broadcasting bias in an SEC biased bowl game on an SEC biased channel with an SEC team getting walloped by a Baylor team that honestly was trying to fight for Big 12 championship game down the stretch.
Yeah.
Granted, there was like 500 scenarios that needed to happen for them to get into it, but I mean, 8-4 still is not bad in this Big 12 scenario, you know?
Yeah. Real chance to make a statement here and get some serious momentum heading into next season when Baylor, hey, I'm calling it now. Baylor TCU Big 12 championship. The hatred in that building will feed families. Okay. It's going to be the game that 2014 didn't get to give us. All right. And I wish I would have thought to ask Billy this. I'm really interested to see where Josh Hoover ends up stacking up as far as best quarterbacks in the Big 12 next season. I mean, yes, Iowa State got their guy back, Rocco Beck's back, but I think Josh Hoover may just be, and yes, purple colored glasses, I'll take this stupid thing off. Josh Hoover may just be the best quarterback in the Big 12. I mean, you know, whether or not he's got the pieces around him, that's another question, but just arm
also
talent.
Just remember Cam Rising and Noah Fafita were at the top of the Big 12 list this year.
That's true.
And look at where they ended. So do you really want him going into the season?
Okay.
Yeah.
He will prove himself to be. Let me say it that way. He will prove himself to be.
I was going to say the entire quarterback list, when I went through it, like the top 3 flip-flopped with the bottom 3, and it was just a giant kerfuffle. So honestly, it's like I'm always sitting here. I was like, man, Big 12 is going back to the olden days of spread offense passing quarterbacks after having like arguably the best year of running backs in the Big 12 in probably since, I mean, gosh, what, late 2000s, like 07, 06, 07, 08, 09, when you had, you know, Ricky Williams, Sticky Ricky, and AP, and all of those guys. Like, it's fun. It's fun. Bring it back to the good old days. Ground and pound, man.
It's a fun freaking league, man. Everything about it's fun. I mean, now I will say too, we're waiting for our resident. We're waiting for our resident devil to arrive. And I will say that Sam Levitt, that's another dude who, like, you got to give serious consideration as, is this guy the best quarterback in the Big 12 going into next season? That dude he's got wheels, he's got an arm. But we'll talk about the Sun Devils here in a little bit. Let's finish our conversation about the Pop-Tart Bowl. It deserves further examination, Brownie. So you were saying you're worried about facing Miami's offense. Let's pick up where we left off for our Cyclones out there.
Yeah, it's just extremely hard for me to kind of sit here and from what I have seen, we don't have a lot of opt-outs. Bo Fralier, honestly, probably is not going to make an NFL roster with his shoulders and his injuries. Dude basically played half of the KU game without either arm. Jalen Knoll and Jaden Higgins, I think, are still planning on playing the game, so we're still going to have our 2 better wide receivers. Miles Purchase, Darian Porter, all of them have still said that they're playing. Miles Purchase was even quoted saying that this game does matter. I really think that unless you are a guaranteed first-round talent, that you as somebody looking at going to the NFL or wanting feedback at the NFL, the bowl game has to matter. You know, you're trying to add more stuff to the resume, but also don't make stupid decisions. You know, is fighting for 1 extra yard really worth you getting speared in the helmet? No.
Yeah.
Like you have to be smart, but also you got to be competitive. And Iowa State, fortunately, we're keeping Dominique Orange. There was reports out that certain SEC schools and Big Ten schools, with one of the Big Ten schools starting with the came knocking to the door.
They do that
for quite a few of our players. And they're staying loyal. I think that's kind of a cool thing that even in this day and age, money to some kids don't matter. Whether we price matched it or not, I don't know. I don't think that we have enough money to compete with a school that starts with the, but I really pray that we win this game because I really want that freaking trophy. That's all that I care about.
I think you can. I think you can. I mean,
and I want to see our players eat a Pop-Tart.
Is Miami going to be excited to be in that game? I don't know. Right. And Iowa State
getting the playoff snub Miami team, because that would make my day.
Yeah. And hey, last thing before we move on to these Devils that I want to talk about. Any reason why? Yeah, eat that Pop-Tart.
Let's go Pop-Tarts, baby.
Is there any reason why? You know, I was making my way too early call TCU Baylor, but is there any reason why Iowa State shouldn't be right back in that Big 12 championship conversation again next year? Y'all got a lot of pieces coming back.
We have a couple of pieces that are coming back. I think the primary concern is we lost our 2 best wide receivers, right? I mean, Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins are more than likely both playing on Sundays.
But you got Chase Sowell.
We did get Chase Sowell, and then we also got Xavier Townsend, which was previously committed to Iowa State, but due to some family things, decommitted to Iowa State, stayed closer to home, went to UCF. Malzahn is now gone, and he's now coming home. We're also getting a couple of transfers for offensive line position, which I think is definitely a need for Iowa State every single year. Because for some strange reason, we can pass block about 80% of the time, and then we can't run block to save our lives. Like how Carson Hansen or Abu Sama or Jalen Jackson were able to pop off any run for more than 3 yards is beyond me. Outside of our offensive linemen's being able to literally pick up our running back, turn them, and go, here, run that way. There's a bigger hole.
Yeah.
So I think a lot for Iowa State is that secondary, though, because, I mean, we're losing Darian Porter, which was a corner. Miles Purchase was a corner. Bo Fralier is a corner. Malik Verdon was a corner. And if you go back to watch the last 2 to 3 games for Iowa State this season, Cooper, who was arguably the best defensive back that we had going into this year, was the one getting burned on everything. Cooper was the one that was at fault for that 4th and 1 touchdown they didn't score a touchdown, but might as well have, when Deshaun James went and sprinted 95% of the field to go get a tackle at like the 3-yard line. But yeah, a lot of people are starting to question, okay, our linebackers are going to be healthy this upcoming year. A lot of the freshmen are going to be coming back with a lot of experience. We're going to be able to bulk them. Defensive line, though, like all we have is Dominique Orange. Who can we get either in the transfer portal or somebody to step up to be that elite pass rusher to where we're not triple teaming Dominique Orange in the middle? Like, I know the guy is a big dude and can absorb blocks, but if you're absorbing 3 and your 2 edge rushers are 1-on-1 and still not getting pressure on the quarterback, what are you doing? Like, I think John Heacock, as much credit as we give that man, because he is an evil genius when it comes to defense, has a lot of question marks that he needs to fill. And I definitely do feel far more confident with that offense getting a plug-and-play style wide receivers for what we previously had for Rocco and not take a drastic step back than I do John Heacock plugging and playing defenders. Because as the season moved on with all of our injuries, it showed our linebackers were not good. So, I mean, that going into next season, honestly, if you had to tell me I had to make a prediction right now, I'm going 7 wins.
Okay. That sounds like an Iowa State fan, you know.
Yeah. I mean, do I think we could get more? Probably. Maybe. No. I don't know. But 7 wins for what I am currently seeing and how the end of the season has gone is being very generous.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the end of the season, the Devil went down to the playoff. He's looking for a trophy to steal, and we got our resident Devil here with us, Ralph Ames. And Ralph, we haven't gotten a chance to talk to you since the big game. How are you feeling about
Thanks
those
for the
Big 12 champion
Pop-Tarts.
Devils? You're welcome, Brownie. It feels pretty good, man. It was, Iowa State came out and started to tight end us to death, and I could see that Matt Campbell was full Matt Campbell, and it was going to be a long game. And then the second quarter happened, and it wasn't. But it was really cool of Arizona State for me to see them put an exclamation point on a season in which them and South Carolina, maybe the 2 hottest teams in the country. And now, I wish Arizona State had the opportunity to play 4 or 5 days after that, but instead they got to wait a month. So we'll see how that cools them down, but definitely flying high for sure.
Yeah, it is an interesting almost dilemma, right? To have a month now, like you say, to kind of reset before the playoff. I think the committee got it right. I'm very excited that Arizona has that 4 seed. There was a lot of worry that they might throw y'all in the 12 seed and just disrespect the living crap out of the Big 12. So, I mean, like I said, we don't have a game to preview for y'all, but if it's between Clemson and Texas, who would you rather see?
I think the fan base is pretty split on this. I'm big Texas, like pro Texas. Would love the opportunity to take on a team where I think like 6 former Sun Devils came from University of Texas, and that's where they're focusing a lot of their recruiting right now. So I think that would be like the most beneficial. But I think most people believe you'd have a better shot at Clemson, knowing that Colin Simmons is lined up on the defensive line for Texas. That's a pretty tough. I think what is Texas's ratio this year? 4 touchdown passes allowed to 19 interceptions.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's like, talk about your all-time overcorrection for giving up 450 yards passing against Michael Penix.
I mean, but like, this is the biggest 12, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and say it. Texas ain't played nobody. They have not played.
Oh, it's true.
The best team they've played, they lost to twice, okay? And everybody else has been a bunch of garbage, right? I'm not impressed by, I mean, maybe the A&M win, maybe, but Texas has beaten A&M every year since the dawn of time, right? It doesn't matter what either team is doing. Texas is going to beat A&M. I'm not impressed with Texas. I'm not impressed with Texas. And I want to see what Cam Scatterbu can do and Sam Levitt can do against this Texas defense. I mean, am I wrong?
No, that's what I'm rooting for.
Shreds.
I would love to see Arizona State, Texas, little 2007-8 Holiday Bowl rerun. But
Nice throwback,
I think,
yes.
I think that I don't know, that would excite me. Clemson is like 70 minutes from Atlanta, and I think that'd give them a pretty big home field advantage over the people coming out from Tempe. So, Dabo, you know how he feels about Devils, so he'd be extra amped for that one.
That is a fun storyline, if nothing else. Dabo facing the Devils. I'm gonna tell you about another guy who faced the devil for 40 days and 40 nights and quoted scripture to him. Yeah, that man was Jesus. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's a potato situation. I feel like I like Arizona State in either game. Maybe I am just drinking the Kool-Aid too much. But I think there's a really good chance that we could see an Arizona State-Oregon matchup. And if that occurs, is that where the dream dies? Do you think, Ralph?
Probably. Probably. I mean, those two coaches know each other as well as anybody. There's an interview this week earlier with Kenny Dillingham. I think it was on Pardon My Take, where he said they used to just stay up in the office at University of Memphis and play who has the pen last, just to see who could outdo each other. But if it comes down to talent on the field, Oregon has basically built a mid-2010s Alabama roster out in the Northwest. So if it comes down to talent, I think Arizona State would be in some trouble in that game.
It's amazing what unlimited NIL money from Nike will do for you.
Yeah, really. Thanks, Uncle Phil.
Yeah. It turned.
How dare you make a close?
My happiness. This job. So, where was I going with this? I had a thought. Okay. If Arizona State Arizona State's playing in the Peach Bowl, are you going to make it out to the game, Ralph?
Yeah, heading out. Got my wife tagging along. I expect to see a bunch of people that I know there. But this is kind of a once every 10-year event.
Max out that credit card, indentured servitude.
Exactly.
Let's go.
Exactly.
It's exactly what I'd be doing.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it really feels like a one in every 10-year event for Arizona State. You had 87, you had 96. I think 2007 was pretty good. 2014 was pretty good. And now here we are in 2024. It could be our last chance to do anything for a while. So I expect to see a bunch of Sun Devil fans out there, maybe not necessarily financially planning for the next 2 games, but maybe spending all that Christmas bonus on this one.
Yeah. I mean, hey, yeah, you got to. You say, though, it may be the last chance. I mean, are you not still high on the Sun Devils? I mean, Sam Levitt's going to be back. You not high on the Sun Devils next season?
I am. I just know that with a lot of these teams, you know this with TCU, sometimes you catch a comet, and it's only meant for a specific season. Sometimes the coaching dynamics change. I know when Kenny Dillingham left the first time with Mike Norvell and all those coaches that all ended up at Florida State eventually, Arizona State took a big hit. So it really all depends on how you can deal with success. They just gave both coordinators a 3-year extension. I don't think Marcus Arroyo is in a hurry to go look for another head coaching job. I know that Brian Ward is happy in Arizona as the defensive coordinator. So maybe they have some stability there. But sometimes with success comes also the inability to afford to retain your players. So everybody always talks about Arizona State's team being a sleeping giant. I've never bought into that. I think the sleeping giant is actually the fan base of this massive, massive university with 80,000 people enrolled at any given time. If those people's energy rise with the success of Arizona State, then you'll be able to retain a lot of the players. If not, then it's going to kind of look like when everyone left ASU in Herms last year and all ended up in the NFL with an Arizona State degree and graduate courses at LSU and Florida and everywhere all over the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 2 more questions for you, and then we'll shut this thing down. First of all, I'm curious what you think about Rich Rodriguez going back to West Virginia, because you are another guy who's seen him up close and personal at Arizona, right? Do you think this is the right move for West Virginia? Do you think Mountaineer fans have a right to be excited?
Yeah. We did a video this week with George Reister on Unafraid Show about, can you go back to your ex, right? Mm-hmm. Kansas State did it. University of Montana has had success with, bringing the same coach back. Rutgers, to an extent, based on what your expectation is for Rutgers. Fresno State with Jeff Tedford was another example of, going back to your ex, and it's successful. Now you have UCF and West Virginia doing it. And the thing I worry about is the conditions that the programs were in when they left. Do you really expect Scott Frost to come back in and go undefeated? Because that was the standard that he left upon.
Yeah, anything else feels like a disappointment, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then
not only that, but Scott Frost didn't inherit a bad team either. When he came in, he was already on success when he got there. So, does he know how to rebuild? Because he didn't rebuild in Nebraska.
And then, so the Rich Rod thing, he's 42-5 in his last 3 years there. So there's nothing really better than that in today's day and age. 42-5, that's 3 consecutive college football playoff appearances. So if he's got Steve Slayton Jr. and Noel Devine Jr. and Pat White Jr. all walking through the door, then maybe. But I think he kind of invented the spread. He's not ahead of the game anymore. It's gonna take a certain level of talent for him to have consistency, which is what he did not have at Michigan and at Arizona. But I like Rich Rod a lot. He kind of got lost in the sauce a little bit out in Arizona and just became like an Arizona retiree with no rules and no fidelity and all that stuff. But, Jacksonville State has been a nice rebuild. He helped them raise a bunch of money. And if he brings that energy back there, then I think that they could be set up. They're coming off 2 straight 6-win conference seasons. So I think they're already in a decent place. He's going to make them that much better. But what he was doing when he was there last was he had them on the verge of a national championship. So that's not happening again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you don't know. They could find Pat White Jr. And hear me out. Instead of inventing a new offense, they're just going to bring back old school veer and shoot West Virginia from back in the 70s.
There you go. Why not?
Whatever works. Okay, last thing for you, Ralph. Since you are sitting up there on your playoff cloud, you've got no games to keep you company. I'm going to give you an opportunity to rapid fire pick your winners in each of the Big 12 bowl games, starting with tonight's game, West Virginia versus Memphis. Who you got?
I like Memphis. Ryan Silverfield kept pretty much the whole staff, whole team together. They should win.
The Rate Bowl, no longer guaranteed. Kansas State, Rutgers. Who you got?
I'm gonna go Big 12 pride on this one. We can go with the Wildcats.
I'm with you there. The Southwest Conference rematch in the Liberty Bowl, the half-built stadium, Tech versus Arkansas. Who you got?
I think Arkansas is exhausted. I think this is the most heavy lifting any 6-6 team did all year. I think they're gonna get wrecked. So I'm all in for Texas Tech on this.
Absolutely. Okay. The least excited TCU fans have ever been about a bowl game. New Mexico Bowl versus Louisiana. Who you got?
Well, if you're saying that they're not excited, then I think maybe the pride kicks in maybe about third quarter. So we'll go with Louisiana lead at halftime, TCU win.
Perfect. I will accept it. Greatest bowl game in the history of Western civilization, the Pop-Tart Bowl, Iowa State, Miami. Who you got?
I think that Miami's going to look exactly like they have all year long, and Iowa State fans are going to get treated to about 78, 79 total points.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm afraid of.
I don't know what the end score is going to be.
Hopefully Iowa State contributes to that total.
Defense? What defense?
So you
we
like
don't have one. Arizona State killed it.
We'll go with whoever has the ball last will blow it.
But,
Whoever has
okay.
the ball last loses.
That's
Well, Miami
awesome.
has a history of that, so I'm going to
Yeah.
say the Canes win. Yes, we'll say the Canes win. Big 12, BYU, Colorado, the poor man's Big 12 championship. Who you got in the Alamo Bowl?
Oh man, you give these BYU guys a time to rest and hang out with their family and kids and stuff. They're going to come back ready to work. So I feel bad for Colorado. I think Colorado's going to get punished. I think it's really, really difficult to keep a Colorado team that had college football playoff aspirations focused for a whole month to take the whole team to New York. I don't know. I think BYU is going to run them over.
I hope you're right. I think that talent wise, I like Colorado in the matchup, but when you put it that way, yeah, BYU might be more focused. And last and also certainly least, Baylor versus LSU in the Texas Bowl. Who you got?
I just want to see LSU lose.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to stay down forever. It's not, Brian Kelly's track record speaks for itself. So if we could just, before they get back to winning 11, 12 games, it would be lovely to see them lose 6 or 7 again.
Let's do it.
He just needs to keep making cringe recruiting videos, where he's just like, yeah.
I think we can count on that. I can't wait for Bill Belichick to make one of those recruiting videos.
Oh, God.
Okay?
Every one of those memes brings me joy.
Like,
by the way,
some of the
how
stuff
is
that
TCU so misfortunate to get Deion Sanders in his first game and Bill Belichick in his first game? Like, what is it? Who did we piss off, right? Like, why does this keep happening to us?
Bill Belichick's going to be like, if you want to play this game, you can play this game. If you don't, whatever.
I guess. Yeah. Well, thank you all out there in the internet sphere for making us a part of your Tuesday night. A very, very hearty and special thank you to all of our guests from around the Big 12 universe for joining us tonight and getting us ready for bowl season. Gentlemen, tell the people where they can find you.
I'm on the internet on Twitter at Ralph Amsden. That's
at
where I'm at.
RalphAmsden.com.
Yes.
.net. It's .com.
Thanks,
Brownie,
guys.
where you at?
At Hoosier Burner on Twitter. You can follow me, Blue Skies, Brownie, Wide Right Natty Light. You can also find us on our website, widerightnattylight.com, or our Discord channel, which is always fun to watch during Iowa State football games, especially the championship when everybody was on suicide watch. So if you like having extremely controversial outbursts of emotions, come join us.
Thank you all out there for tuning in again. Thank you, especially those of you on Twitter who are tuning in. Go to YouTube. Subscribe to the show at Big 12 Voice of College Football. It's right there. Do it. Let's grow the show. Let's make this a movement. And also find us on your audio platform of choice, The Biggest 12 Live. We're there every Tuesday night. We're taking a holiday break, though. I won't be with you Christmas Eve. I won't be with you New Year's Eve, but we're coming back full force on January 7th. So be on the lookout. We'll have a lot of college football bowl wins, hopefully, to talk about. Hopefully, we'll be talking about Arizona State advancing. I don't know how far they'll be advancing at that point in January 7th. But, hopefully that's what we're talking
Straight
about.
to the Capitol.
Yeah, there we go. Yes. Follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55. Follow my YouTube channel at Clint Foster Comedy. And I hope you have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa if you're into that, Happy New Year. I hope your team wins, and go Big 12. Have a great night, folks.